I achieved financial freedom after 12 years. But looking back, I don't think it had to take that long. There were a few mistakes I made along the way. Some of them cost me years. If I had avoided those mistakes, I believe I could have reached financial freedom much earlier. In this video, I'm not going to talk about what I did right. Instead, I want to talk about what I did wrong. None of these mistakes ruined my life, but each one slowed me down. If you're working toward financial freedom, I hope my experience helps you avoid making the same mistakes I did.
The biggest mistake I made had nothing to do with investing. It was the job I chose. When I graduated from university, getting a position at a large corporate company felt like a dream. I went through the interview process, got the offer, and I was genuinely excited. The salary was good, the benefits were attractive. Like many young graduates, I felt I had achieved something important. At the time, I believed I had made the right decision. Looking back now, I think it was the wrong decision for the kind of life I eventually wanted. To be clear, I'm not saying large companies are bad. Many people enjoy working there and build successful careers. This is simply my personal experience. The problem wasn't the salary. The problem was the workload. The company expected a lot, and because of that, my days were often long and exhausting. Even after normal office hours, urgent work would sometimes appear. My manager would ask me to stay late or handle tasks that couldn't wait until the next day. Weekend site visits were also part of the job. By the time I got home, I was physically and mentally tired. Most evenings, all I wanted was to eat dinner, spend a little time with my family, and get some sleep before doing it all again the next day. Sometimes I couldn't even sleep well because I was thinking about unfinished work or what I had to deal with the following morning. When you're living like that for years, it's very difficult to build something outside your job, and that's where I think I made my biggest mistake. If your goal is financial freedom, your salary is only one part of the equation. The other part is having enough time and energy to create another source of income. I didn't have that. Looking back, I think I could have made a different choice. Since I was a civil engineer, I could have started a small interior design and renovation service alongside my job. Even if I had taken on only 1 or 2 projects each year, the extra income could have been invested instead of spent. Many of my friends actually did exactly that. They kept their full-time engineering jobs while also working on interior design and renovation projects during evenings or weekends. Over time, some of them earned a significant amount of additional income from those projects. Seeing that now, I realize it was an opportunity I completely overlooked. If I had earned even a modest amount of extra income and invested it consistently, I believe I could have reached financial freedom several years earlier. Of course, it's easy to see these things in hindsight. At the time, I wasn't thinking that way. I thought my career would naturally lead to financial success if I simply worked harder. Now I see it differently. Working harder inside your job isn't always the fastest path. Sometimes building a second source of income can make a much bigger difference. That doesn't mean everyone should quit their job tomorrow and start a business. It simply means that if your job leaves you with no time, no energy, and no opportunity to build something else, it's worth asking whether that job is helping your long-term goals or quietly delaying them. For me, that was the biggest financial mistake I made, not because the job paid poorly, but because it consumed almost everything else that I had to give.
The second mistake I made happened long before I started my financial freedom journey. It actually happened when I was still a university student. Around 2009, I became interested in the stock market. Like many beginners, I was attracted by stories of people making quick profits. It seemed exciting, and I thought buying and selling stocks frequently was the best way to make money. The problem was that I had very little knowledge. I wasn't studying company fundamentals, I wasn't analyzing financial statements, I wasn't thinking about long-term investing. I was simply trying to make quick gains. Looking back now, I realize I wasn't investing at all. I was trading, and there's a big difference between the two. When you trade without knowledge or a clear strategy, you're mostly reacting to price movements. You become focused on what the market will do tomorrow or next week, instead of asking whether you actually own a good business. That was exactly what I was doing. Eventually, I lost money. It wasn't enough to ruin my finances, but it was enough to discourage me. After that experience, I stopped investing altogether. For several years, I stayed away from the stock market because I believed it wasn't for me. In hindsight, that was another costly mistake. The loss itself wasn't the biggest problem. The biggest problem was the time I lost. If I had understood long-term investing earlier, I could have started building my portfolio years before I actually did. Fortunately, things changed in 2014. By then, I had already decided that financial freedom was something I wanted to pursue seriously. But before putting my money back into the market, I promised myself I would learn first. I joined the Investor Education Program to understand how the stock market really works. Later, I also completed several training programs at BICM. Those courses completely changed my perspective. For the first time, I understood the difference between trading and investing. Instead of looking for stocks that might go up next week, I started looking for strong businesses that could continue growing over many years. I learned about blue-chip companies. I learned why dividends matter. I learned why patience is often more valuable than trying to predict short-term price movements. Most importantly, I realized that the stock market doesn't reward people simply because they're active. It often rewards people who are patient. From that point on, my strategy became very simple. Every month, after paying my living expenses, I invested whatever money I could into quality companies. I wasn't trying to time the market. I wasn't chasing hot stocks. I wasn't trying to get rich quickly. I was simply buying good businesses and giving them time. That one change made a huge difference. If I could give my younger self one piece of advice, it would be this: don't try to become a successful trader before you become a knowledgeable investor. Learning first probably would have saved me money, and more importantly, it would have saved me several years on my journey toward financial freedom.
The third mistake I made had nothing to do with investing or choosing the wrong job. It was lending money to a friend. In 2013, one of my friends asked to borrow some money. I trusted him, and I didn't think too much about it. I believed he would return it within a reasonable amount of time. Unfortunately, things didn't go as I expected. Getting the money back turned out to be much harder than lending it. Months passed, then more months. Every now and then I had to remind him about it. Those conversations were uncomfortable for both of us. I don't enjoy asking people for money, especially someone I know personally. Eventually, I recovered the full amount, but it took until 2016. Looking back, I believe he could have paid me much earlier if he had made it a priority. I don't want to go into the details because that's not really the point of this story. The lesson is much more important than the amount of money involved. When you're working toward financial freedom, every dollar has a job to do. Money that sits with someone else isn't growing. It isn't being invested. It isn't earning dividends, and it isn't helping you move closer to your goal. After that experience, I made a personal rule. I no longer lend money that I can't comfortably afford to lose. If I genuinely want to help someone, I'd rather give a smaller amount as a gift than spend years wondering whether I'll ever get my money back. That approach has given me much more peace of mind. Financial freedom isn't only about growing your money, it's also about protecting it.
When I look back today, I don't think about these mistakes with regret. I think about them as part of the journey. If someone had told me in my 20s that I would eventually achieve financial freedom, I probably wouldn't have believed them. At that time, I was simply trying to build a career and earn a good salary. I wasn't thinking about opportunity cost, I wasn't thinking about compound growth, and I certainly wasn't thinking about how today's decisions might affect my life 10 or 15 years later. Experience changes the way you see things. Today, if a young person asked me where to begin, I probably wouldn't start by talking about stocks. I'd first ask a few simple questions. Does your job leave you enough time and energy to build something outside of work? Are you investing, or are you simply trying to make quick money? And are you protecting the money you've already worked so hard to earn? Those questions matter just as much as choosing the right investment. Financial freedom isn't usually delayed by one big mistake. More often, it's delayed by several small decisions that don't seem important at the time. For me, it was choosing a job that left very little room for anything else. It was trying to trade before I understood how investing really worked. And it was lending money without thinking about how it could affect my own financial plans. Individually, none of those decisions changed my life overnight. Together, they probably added several years to my journey. That said, I don't believe anyone follows a perfect path. Every investor makes mistakes. Every professional makes career decisions they later question. Every person looks back and thinks, if I knew then what I know now, I would have done things differently. That's just part of life. The important thing is learning from those experiences instead of repeating them. Even after reaching financial freedom, I still think about these lessons. They continue to influence how I manage my money, how I spend my time, and how I make decisions. One thing I understand much better today is that financial freedom isn't built by one brilliant decision. It's built by many ordinary decisions repeated consistently over a long period of time. Sometimes those decisions are good, sometimes they're not. The goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is simply to keep learning and moving forward. If you're watching this while you're still early in your own journey, maybe one of my mistakes will save you a little time. And if that happens, then sharing this story will have been worth it. Thank you for watching.